What if the quiet girl everyone laughed at turned out to be the deadliest sniper they never saw coming? Arden Shaw was called Mouse, until a single shot shattered every assumption. But this isn't a story about glory. It's about silence, loss, and the price of remembering. Welcome to my channel. They called me Mouse the first week. I didn't argue, didn't even blink. Think that tiny frame of yours can hit anything? The drill instructor barked, chuckling as I stepped up to the line at Camp Harveston, a dusty army outpost somewhere between the Mississippi River and a whole lot of nowhere. Behind me, the other recruits laughed. Some clapped dramatically and mimicked falling over like they'd been shot by a feather. I just adjusted my stance. That's when my shirt shifted a little, and the tail of a tattoo peeked out. A black jackal wrapped around a cartridge, its fangs bared mid-snarl. Most of them didn't notice, but one man did. Colonel Dwyer was mid-stride when he caught sight of it. He froze, whispered low to himself, That's a jackal team mark. His tone changed everything. Because jackal wasn't a unit people joked about. Jackal didn't show up on paperwork. Jackal didn't exist. Not officially. My name is Arden Shaw. I'm 29. Born in Helsinki, raised in London, trained in silence. I came to Camp Harveston for the sniper qualification course. It was supposed to be another checkbox. Another formality. From day one, I didn't talk much. Showed up early. Cleaned everyone's weapons without being asked. They thought it was weird. Thought I was trying too hard. Called me Little Miss Trigger Freeze behind my back. During our first marksmanship drill, when they handed me a rifle, I asked for permission to observe instead. Said I needed to study the wind. Someone laughed. You scared of the bang? I shook my head. I've fired before. I just don't fire unless I know I should. That got more laughs. What did you shoot? Airsoft in your neighbor's backyard? But something in the way I watched, how I calculated, how I tracked, made even the instructors pause. Because you can't fake the way a soldier watches wind move through grass. You can't pretend to know how heat shimmer bends a bullet's path unless you've lived through the moments where a half degree means someone dies or someone doesn't. Every night, I sat alone after drills, just watching the range. Not doing anything, just remembering, and trying not to. They made fun of me for that too. Said I was waiting for the targets to invite me to tea. But I kept doing what I did, quiet, steady, invisible. Then one night, Sergeant Hal Brenner caught me in the armory after hours, polishing the barrels under moonlight. What are you doing? He asked. I looked up and said, making sure everything works. Works for what? I didn't hesitate. For when it matters. He stared a little longer than he needed to. Didn't ask anything else. Just nodded once and walked away. They'd been waiting for me to fail. By week 3, I was still the only one who hadn't fired a shot. Sergeant Brenner kept giving me side glances, but he didn't push. Others weren't as patient. You know what I think? Private Dixon said during a break, loud enough for everyone to hear. I think she's afraid the recoil knock her into next week. Laughter. Slaps on backs. All in good fun, if you're on the inside of it. I said nothing. The instructors figured it was time to force the issue. Live fire. Steel silhouettes downrange. Wind at 6 knots, cross current. Midday haze shimmering off the barrel. They lined us up. 20 of us. 1 shot each. They called my name first. Shaw. 1 round only, barked the trainer. Miss it, and you're done. I stepped forward without a word. Picked up the rifle, a standard M2010, but I could feel the trigger tension was uneven. Someone hadn't cleaned it properly. I adjusted it mid-lift. The small adjustments you do when you're used to rifles that jam if you forget to brush the firing pin. As I took position, my shirt shifted again. The jackal tattoo was more visible now. Its teeth sunk into the brass. And this time, one of the junior instructors noticed the faint J7 etched below it. He opened his mouth to crack wise, but Dwyer, who'd been walking by, stopped him cold. He stepped up behind me slowly, like a man walking through a memory. What unit were you in? He asked, too low for the rest to hear. Echo 7. Out of Vilnius, I answered. My voice was flat, but I felt my heart start to race. I hadn't said those words out loud in 2 years. He went still. His face changed. Something hard peeled back behind his eyes. Jackal Team 7? But that op was scrubbed. No survivors. That's what they told us. I didn't look at him. I just chambered the round. They were wrong, I said. That's when the range went quiet. Recruits shifted uncomfortably. They didn't know what had changed, only that something had. Even the wind seemed to hush. Colonel Dwyer didn't say anything else, just backed up slowly. Fire when ready. The trainer called out, his voice less sure now. I took my time, adjusted, breathed in, not the shallow kind, deep, into the ribs. My right hand steadied. My left found that memory position on the stock, where instinct met physics. Then I fired. The round cracked through the air like lightning splitting a church bell. Downrange, the steel plate jerked once. Then split, clean, right down the middle. No one spoke. No applause. No whistles. Just silence. Then I chambered another round. Sighted again. Second silhouette, half hidden behind the first. A tricky angle, one you'd only attempt if you trusted everything. The rifle, the wind, yourself. I fired again. That one dropped too. Someone exhaled a breath they'd been holding for too long. When I lowered the weapon, I turned slowly. The same Private Dixon who'd been joking 2 minutes earlier was standing slack-jawed. Who are you?" he asked. I didn't answer, but Colonel Dwyer did. "She's Jackal Team, one of the 12. The murmurs spread fast. "No way. Thought they were all gone. I heard about them. They used to drop into red zones when even Rangers pulled out." Someone asked, "How many made it back?" I met Dwyer's eyes. "You're looking at her." He stepped forward and saluted. "Not the lazy kind. The kind you save for ghosts and giants." And I stood there, surrounded by boys with loud mouths and instructors with louder commands, and I realized something. They finally saw me, but they didn't know me. Not yet. After the range incident, the tone shifted. No more jokes. No more side eyes. They didn't know whether to talk to me or salute. Some avoided me entirely, like proximity might awaken whatever darkness they suspected I carried. Colonel Dwyer summoned the instructors that night. I wasn't invited. Didn't need to be. I knew what he'd say. By morning, the word had spread. Someone had dug into old files, or maybe just rumors. A few names were mentioned quietly among the instructors. Jackal Team 7, a unit so deep under the books it might as well have been myth. Specialists in urban overwatch and field extraction. We weren't the ones who got sent in first. We were the ones sent in when the first 5 teams didn't come back. They called us janitors with sniper rifles. 12 of us had gone into the tunnels under Krasna Bay. One came out. Me. That part was true. The rest? Most of it was legend, and I let it stay that way. Then came the day Colonel Dwyer called me aside. Not to chew me out. Not even to ask questions. Just to say one thing. "You saved my brother. Hill, 27. I was told it was a fluke shot. Guess that was you?" I didn't say yes. I just gave a half nod. That was enough. "Thank you," he said. His voice broke slightly. Then he stepped back and left me to the quiet. But the quiet didn't stay quiet for long. That night, I sat alone at the far end of the barracks, disassembling a rifle I didn't even use. Just cleaning. My hands always needed something to do. When I stopped, my mind would wander. And lately, it wandered toward names I hadn't spoken in years. Callum, Reyes, Dima, Yara, all of them ghosts now. And then someone approached. Private Bishop, tall, loud, always quick with a joke at someone else's expense. He stood across from me, shifting awkwardly. I didn't know," he said. I glanced up. Didn't know what. He looked at the rifle parts laid out in front of me like surgical tools. "That you were, that you'd seen real stuff. The kind you don't come back from." I didn't respond. I ran my mouth. "Figured you were just trying to be mysterious." I stopped cleaning. "You think anyone wants to be mysterious, Bishop?" I asked. Most of us would trade every ounce of mystery to sleep through the night. He didn't laugh. He didn't argue. He just nodded once, then said, "What happened to the rest of them?" I didn't want to answer, but I did. "We were sent into a cleanup op, intel said 2 hostiles. There were 19. His face paled. "I got 9 before the exit was blocked. 3 more on the fallback route. When I reached extraction, I had 1 round left." "God," he whispered. I met his eyes. "Don't say that. Just learn from it." He sat beside me then. Quietly. No more questions. Just silence, shared like a kind of truce. Later that week, Sergeant Brenner brought a set of printouts to the class. Each recruit had a copy of their own shooting stats. But at the bottom of each page was a single line in small, block font. "You're better than you believe. Prove it." Nobody said who wrote them, but a few looked in my direction. And for the first time since I'd arrived, someone asked, not what I had done, but if I'd helped them get better. Not because I was Jackal, but because I knew what it meant to aim when it mattered. It was supposed to be another day of drills, shoot, assess, debrief. But I knew something was off the moment I stepped onto the range. Colonel Dwyer was there, pacing slow, hands behind his back. The instructors were too stiff, too quiet. And the recruits? They looked nervous, like kids waiting for a thunderstorm to break overhead. Then Sergeant Brenner called my name. Shaw, step forward. I did. Today's exercise, live fire, real-time adjustment, variable wind. You're going first. I nodded. No protest. No hesitation. They laid out a new rifle for me. Custom stock. Longer barrel. Not standard issue. Someone had dug this out of a private vault. Then I saw the targets. Not steel silhouettes this time. These were advanced torsos. Human-shaped forms rigged with pressure sensors. And at the center of each one, right over the heart, a small red circle the size of a quarter. I inhaled. Not because I was nervous, but because I remembered the last time I saw targets like that. Jackal used them in simulation runs before live field extractions. Each red circle was the window. The only window. If you missed it, you missed your chance. 3 rounds, said Sergeant Brenner. 3 targets. 1 shot each. I took my position. The wind was up, about 7 knots, swirling. Not enough to kill a round, but enough to test judgment. The instructors stood still. Then Dwyer broke the silence. Shaw, you remember Hill 27? I froze. That wasn't on any of my records. That mission wasn't supposed to exist. My jaw tightened. Yes, sir. He nodded solemnly. Tell them what happened. I didn't want to, but I did. There was a recon team pinned inside an apartment block. 7 stories. Enemy had high ground. 2 spotters, 1 heavy sniper. I was in a church steeple, 842 meters out. I'd been there for 9 hours. No backup. No evac window. Why didn't you pull out? Bishop asked from behind me. I turned. My voice was quiet, but it carried. Because a boy with a chest wound was bleeding out on the 5th floor. And the team medic was already dead. The range went silent again. I raised the rifle. Found the first target. Breath in. Breath out. Crack. Direct hit. Right through the red. The second target was partially hidden behind a barricade. Adjusted for angle. Compensated for edge drag. Crack. Second red gone. The third target moved. Mechanized pulley system. Simulating real combat shift. I didn't flinch. Tracked. Tracked. Waited for the telltale pause in the glide. Crack. Third red disappeared. When I stood, I noticed something I hadn't seen in a long time. Colonel Dwyer's hands, trembling. He didn't try to hide it. Those 3 shots, he said. They reminded me of something. You pulled me out from Hill 27, didn't you? I nodded. Shot 473. He blinked. What? That's how many shots I fired that day. You remember the one that saved you. But there were 472 before it. The air shifted. Like even the wind needed a second to breathe. Bishop stepped forward. The same kid who used to joke about yoga retreats. Why didn't you say anything sooner? I turned toward him. My voice flat and quiet. Because the moment you believe your own myth, you're already dead. No one laughed at me after that. Not when I walked past. Not when I trained. Not when I cleaned the armory in the dark after everyone had gone to bed. A few tried to approach me, polite, cautious, like I was a rare animal that might bolt or bite. But mostly, they just watched. Eyes full of questions they weren't brave enough to ask. All except Bishop. He lingered near me more often now. Not to gawk or flatter, but to learn. He started copying how I sighted, how I reset after a shot, even how I cleaned the bolt assemblies. One night, after a long drill, I found a note beside my bunk. Your breathing technique. How long did it take to learn that control? No signature, but I knew the handwriting. So the next day, I stayed a little longer at the range. Set up a second rifle next to mine. When he came by, I nodded toward it. Show me how you breathe. He hesitated, then laid down beside me, mimicking my stance. He held his breath too long, too shallow. I tapped his shoulder. You're not running. You're not drowning. Let the air be your ally, not your enemy. He nodded slowly. You ever miss? He asked. I didn't answer right away. Then I said, yes. Once. Why? Because I hesitated. Thought I had more time. He didn't ask what it cost me. He didn't need to. We just kept firing. That afternoon, Colonel Dwyer gathered everyone outside the hangar. He held a clipboard but didn't read from it. Just looked around like he was measuring each face. Some of you still think this course is about pulling a trigger, he said. It's not. It's about knowing when not to. He paused. Shaw, front and center. I stepped forward. She didn't come here to learn, he said. She came to remember. I felt every eye on me. But for the first time, it didn't burn. It didn't sting. Dwyer continued. She once saved my life. Shot I never saw. Target I never even knew was there. That's what the good ones do. They fire before anyone even knows danger's near. A silence settled over the crowd. Then I spoke. Not loud. Just enough for them to hear. I didn't save you, Colonel. I just did my job. He nodded. And that's why it mattered. I looked at the recruits, the same ones who'd rolled their eyes when I first asked to observe instead of fire. Now their eyes weren't mocking. They were listening. Jackal Team had a saying, I said. The best shots go unnoticed. Because nobody dies. The wind kicked up just then, scattering dust over the concrete. I turned and walked to the firing line. Picked up the M24 I'd cleaned 100 times, but hadn't fired since that day on the ridge. I lifted it. Sighted. One more silhouette, out at the far edge of the range. A puff of dust from the chest. Center mass. Sometimes, I added, lowering the rifle, they remember. And in that stillness, you could hear it. Respect, settling in like gravity. I didn't return to the course after that. The next morning, I was gone. No ceremony. No announcement. Just an empty bunk and a folded cloth on the bench. My M24 lay across it, cleaner than regulation. Beneath it, a note. No more training needed. Just remember why we hold these rifles. They said nothing, but I know the recruits felt the weight of it. Sergeant Brenner found something else. Each recruit's gear had been rechecked, retuned. Every bolt, every scope, and inside their duffels, a sealed envelope with their name. Each one held notes. Handwritten. About posture, grip, breathing patterns, anticipation. Suggestions tailored to their habits. I'd been watching all along, not judging. Preparing them for the moment they might need it. At the end of each sheet was the same message. You're better than you believe. Prove it. Bishop's letter was longer. 2 pages. He carried it folded in his chest pocket for the rest of the course. They put a frame up at the range later. No photo. Just black lettering on weathered wood. Jackal Team. They didn't speak often. But when they did, they didn't miss. Dwyer kept my final scorecard on his wall. Below it, a pin, black metal, shaped like a jackal's eye. Only 3 were ever made. Before I left, I asked for one thing. A few minutes to speak to the recruits. They sat in silence. Even Bishop. Even the ones who used to joke. You think this job is about pulling a trigger? I asked. It's not. Eyes on me. No laughter. Just listening. It's about carrying what comes with every shot. What you take. What you leave behind. I paced once across the floor, then stopped. When I was your age, I thought snipers were heroes. Precision. Skill. Distance. I looked up. But heroes don't sit in shadows for 16 hours waiting for a shot. And they don't wake up with the names of people they couldn't save. I saw Bishop's face shift. Maybe he saw it now, what I'd been trying to bury in silence. Then his hand went up. Ma'am, how do we become like you? The question hung in the air. I gave him the truth. You don't. A pause. You become better. I saw it land. The version of me that brings all 12 back alive. That's the one you're trying to be. I turned to leave, then stopped. And remember, I said, glancing back, the one sitting beside you, the one you think doesn't belong. A beat might be the one who saves your life. Treat them like it. Then I walked out, and none of them forgot that. I left Fort Harveston before sunrise. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't need to. The wind off the plain was sharp, cutting through the trees like memory. I didn't look back. If I had, I might have stayed. They found one last thing later. Inside the supply locker, beneath the cleaning kits, taped to the lid, was a flash drive. No label. Just files. Videos. Diagrams. Exercises harder than anything they'd seen in the course. Annotated, explained. Each one ended the same way. There's no such thing as routine. Every round matters. Sergeant Brenner gathered the squad that evening. Played one of the videos. It was me, demonstrating how to shoot through moving glass. I didn't speak much, just pointed, adjusted, let the motion speak for itself. Halfway through, Dwyer stepped into the room and stood in the back. He watched until the end, then said, "She didn't come here to graduate." Someone asked, "Then why?" Dwyer didn't hesitate. "She came to remind us what it looks like when silence is earned." Weeks passed, but her name stayed. They stopped calling me Mouse. Started calling me the one who trained with Shaw. Like proximity itself had weight. The instructors began using her notes during drills. Her diagrams replaced outdated handbooks. They didn't say so, but we knew. This wasn't just curriculum anymore. It was legacy. One morning, Sergeant Brenner unlocked the weapons cage for a new batch of trainees. Inside, beside the usual gear, stood a single rifle, sealed in a hard case. No tag, no barcode, just a thin black ribbon wrapped around the latch. Inside, the M24, polished to glass. Beneath it, a handwritten line on folded cloth. If you hold it, remember who you're holding it for. No name, no rank, just that. They mounted the message beside the range door. And we read it every day. Years from now, people still asked about her. New recruits would hear pieces. The ghost of Harveston, the jackal, the one who never missed. They never got the full story. Just fragments. Just enough. But those of us who were there, we remember. Bishop stayed in. Became a trainer. Kept that folded note in his locker. Creased so deep it looked printed. He'd nod at uncertain rookies and say, "She believed in me before I did." Dwyer eventually retired. Quietly. His last order before stepping down? That the range plaque stays up. Always. As for me, Private Arden Shaw, that name's been retired too. Now I sign my letters with the number 11. For the ones I couldn't bring back. For the silence I earned. For the shot I didn't take. I don't wear medals. I don't speak at ceremonies. But I do keep one promise. I watch. Not with a scope. Not anymore. But when someone's sitting alone. Cleaning gear no one asked them to. Getting laughed at. Written off. I notice. Because I remember what it felt like to be that person. And I know now what they don't. That the quiet one in the corner might be the only reason you come home. So if you ever see someone like that, someone who moves like they've already been through the worst, maybe don't ask them who they are. Just trust they'll be there when it counts. And treat them like they already are.